Right, business news now, and the market's focus on soaring rich world inflation has obscured the pain inflicted on developing economies, where citizens spend a much greater portion of income on ever more costly food and energy. Now, that was a major discussion point on day 4 of those crucial IMF World Bank meetings taking place in Washington, D.C. Many of those countries and financial officials downplayed the possibility of any quick fix for debt reduction. Nigeria's Finance Minister Zainab Ahmed says the country's debt strategy is on track for 2021-2024.
We're actually feeling the pressures. The market cost is too high for us, so we cannot even explore the markets in the near future. And also because inflation is going up and is going to stay up for longer, our debt service obligations in foreign currency are increasing. And what we decided to do is not to wait for it to happen. We have to start looking at how do we better manage our liabilities. For example, our domestic liabilities, we've been able to shift our loans from short tenors to medium and longer term tenors. We have to do the same thing for our international borrowings as well, bilateral loans, and even some of the concessional loans, that the periods should be stretched to give us more fiscal room. While we are working to increase revenue, to improve on our revenue to debt service, we still need to be able to renegotiate and stretch out our repayment obligations.
Well, let's now cross over to Washington, D.C., where Arise News correspondent Nkechi Nnana has been covering the IMF meetings. Great to see you, Nkechi. We just listened to Nigeria's finance minister participate in a debate earlier today on the global economy. There was a lot of focus on high debt levels in the country. What exactly did she say for that? What can you tell us about that?
Yes, Adesua, and rightly so, there's been a focus throughout the week on high debt burden, especially on emerging economies like Nigeria, alongside food insecurity. Now, on the topic of debt burden, there's a high level of debt, and obviously when you have weak currencies, and like she said, some of our obligations that are in foreign currencies keep increasing, you just can't wait. You have to do this yourself. So what she's trying to explain is we're not debt restructuring. Meanwhile, some people have called it de facto restructuring. Some of the things that she was explaining, moving short-term loans to medium and long-term loans, just to give fiscal policy a stretch while Nigeria develops and increases its revenue. That's what the finance minister is explaining. And on the other side, the World Bank Group president earlier this morning, David Malpass, was explaining, speaking more on the high debt levels that some countries in Africa have been experiencing. And he even goes further to say that at this point, the World Bank doesn't even have the capacity to issue debt reliefs to some countries. And he says a lot of countries are coming in to ask for that and just not finding the mechanism to do that. Something else worth noting is what he said about the common framework under the G20. We know that Zambia is in advanced talks with the fund for that process, but Nigeria has not stepped forward to participate under that common framework under the G20, and you would wonder why. On the sidelines of the IMF World Bank Group annual meetings, I spoke with the Nigeria's Minister of Finance, and here's what she had to say about why Nigeria has not stepped forward to participate in the common framework under the G20.
Is that it's not beneficial for Nigeria, and the way it's designed is not suited for us. So far, this framework has been on for about 2 years, and so far only 3 countries have managed it. So, and the message is that it needs to be looked at. The way it's structured, very few countries are able to even take advantage of it.
Can we expect out of these meetings? We know Nigeria's debt stands at over 48 trillion naira right now.
Yes, Ngozi, and it's not a good look. Like I said, there's been a lot of talk and focus on the debt distress. 60% of low-income earning countries are on the burden or are on debt distress, and it's just not good. So there's just a lot of more policy recommendations on what emerging countries can do. One of them, Kristalina Georgieva, has been pondering on is acting prudently, acting fast, acting now. And what she said at that debate was that the Minister of Finance, Zainab Ahmed, is right. You cannot wait for inflation to keep rising. You can't wait for things to get bad. You have to do it yourself. You can't wait for loans, like you heard the minister explain about the common framework under the G20 and how the process is just unpredictable and it's quite lumpy. It's just not beneficial for the country. And so the country has to do what's beneficial to it. You have to focus on what matters. And what matters right now is the low-income households, food insecurity, how to manage our debt burdens and how sustainable our debt can be, Ngozi. So that's just what we're expecting at these meetings and how Nigeria will, and if Nigeria will follow some of these policy recommendations and how they will implement it. We'll still keep talking to the Nigerian delegation here and we'll definitely get back to you.
All right, thank you very much, Nkechi. It must be stated Nigeria's debt is 42.8 trillion and not 48.